Welcome to Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole, hosted by two nationally published Atlanta interior designers, Joanne Kandrak and Kelly Cole. These energetic women are also world travelers, charity givers, and bloggers with a wealth of information to share and stories to tell about the interior design world. Okay, now just a warning, this is going to be fun and not too serious. After all, they still do have an interior design business running at full speed.
Hey everybody, welcome to Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole. This is episode number 80, and today we have a very interesting topic. It's how the COVID-19 pandemic will change the American home with our guest, Veronika Miller-Eagleson. We have some really interesting topics to dive into, and we've invited Veronika as a person in the know. She is the CEO of Modenus Media. It's a comprehensive online resource for design professionals and design enthusiasts, whether it's a client to designer, manufacturer to consumer, or blogger to fellow blogger. Modenus works daily to grow and enrich our design community. She's also the founder of Designhounds, which is a network of over 500 design influencers. Veronika is a great friend, and she's highly respected in our industry. But before we get started, we wanted to let you know that this episode of Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole is sponsored by Helser Brothers Hardware. Several key roles play a factor in the continued success of Helser Brothers. They offer competitive pricing, free shipping on orders over $100, original custom designs, and I love this, a 6-point check and balance system to ensure clients get what they order each and every time. I love that they're trained to patiently help designers work out solutions for difficult window configurations. Helser Brothers makes drapery hardware for designers all over the country. And I thought this was great. A review from a designer in Denver says, "For over 18 years, I've worked with Helser, and I'm thankful to have such a great company to work. They have evolved over the years and continue to add new styles, colors, and designs to keep up with the current trends. They offer a beautiful product and have the ability to design whatever you can create. They are my go-to for providing support for all my creative creations. They are the best." So you can visit Helser Brothers at helserbrothers.com.
All right. So an interesting Forbes article was written by Jamie Gold on March 31st of this year on how the pandemic will change our American home. And the perspective of 8 thought leaders was given, and Veronika was included. So welcome to the show, Veronika.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, ladies. You know, I miss the sight of you guys in person. I got to tell you, that's one change.
Well, I know we miss you too. And I'm just imagining your pretty face in front of me as we're talking.
So do I. It has aged tremendously, and it's no longer pretty. You know, all these Zoom calls do none of us any favors.
No, they really don't. So thankfully, when we're recording this, we're not on Zoom, so none of us can see each other. I actually am showered today, so I guess I could have, but... So I'm just always so excited to talk to you, Veronika, because I'm sure Joanne feels the same way. I just consider you to be such an expert in so many ways. You're so well-read and intelligent, and I love how much info you really put out on social media that's thought-provoking. So this is just a great topic. So we know that in our design world, things are going to change after this experience, and I personally think it'll change a lot for the better. So let's just kind of start out talking about your thoughts on healthier spaces and materials. There's a lot out there that can be introduced into the homes. It's already introduced, but maybe the common Joe isn't really thinking about it right now. For those of us that go to KBIS and other events, we see it and we know it, but the average Joe might not. So what are you seeing right now, or what do you think is going to be happening?
I think there's a lot of opportunity out here. Like with anything that provokes change, it's not always going to be all bad. And we're running into the same situation here. So there's definitely room for a lot of vision. And first and foremost, even before we all came into this world of COVID a couple of months ago, what was happening prior to that? We were all at KBIS talking about wellness, right? Yeah. So here we are, and we're doing more of the same. And it's a topic that should have been talked about a long time ago for any number of reasons. And the impact of design, this is sort of my little soapbox that I have to get out, but the impact of design professionals and a designer working with a client should be about their well-being first and foremost. Now it's just more obvious, but nothing we're going to talk about is anything that we shouldn't be talking about anyway. So,
Agreed.
So there's so much impact, and not just on the client's wellness. It translates into sustainability and into the environment. And we often do little focus groups asking people about, what's really important right now in design. And everybody says, oh, yay, wellness. Ooh, but nobody really wants to pay extra for sustainability. But the reality is you do. The minute you think wellness. So there's so much good that can come out of this, and us being cooped up at home, all we're doing right now is looking around going, ooh, that would need to change. This would need to change. So it's a really, don't you have that same thing going on?
Absolutely.
Where you're going, I need a freezer 3 times the size, and I need toilet paper storage, clearly. So, but we'll get to that. So in terms of materials, I mean, the obvious things are germ-resistant surfaces. Countertops is definitely a big one. Flooring, whether it's carpeting or hardwood, the surfaces have to be as germ-resistant as possible. I had mentioned, and when Jamie asked me to kind of get back to her with some opinions on this topic, I looked up self-sanitizing door handles just because I thought it would be a really good idea. And they make those, and it was launched by a group of students who said, they've got to be material, and they're actually using a technology to create a self-sanitizing surface for doors so that, I mean, what makes more sense? So I can't believe that they're not in every home, and it's certainly not in every business. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. So whoever's out there creating stuff like that, the door handle is where it's at, right? And then also, I mean, filtering, whether it's air, whether it's water. Again, the water, to me, a really big thought process at the moment is what can you do as a designer to go back to your client at the moment, to existing clients, and talk to them about making some changes and revisiting some of the designs in their home. And having filtration systems in the home is a no-brainer. It saves you money on bottled water, on shampoo, all that good stuff, and you're doing something good for your body and the environment. Come on. So,
yes,
the smart filtration. And the last one I had on my list in this regard was the smart toilets. And if that's not the leading, and I'm not getting paid by anybody that makes those, but I got to tell you, with the TP run, having smart toilets that doesn't require TP, hello. But you do have to pre-wire for it. So that should be a consideration from here on forth, in my mind, in every bathroom.
I totally agree. But you know what's funny, Veronika, is a lot of our clients don't really know about some of these products. So when we go to KBIS, like a self-sanitizing door handle, I never even knew those existed. So as designers, we need to stay up on kind of what's going on so that we can show this to our clients. That's part of our job, I guess, is to bring to them what we've seen. So I think those are all smart materials, but the average person doesn't know about them.
And I will say, this is my second soapbox, and then I'll shut up about soapboxes. But what is a soapbox? I mean, who has soaps and boxes anymore?
Very good points is what it is.
Well, the other one really is that design has got to come back to taking a lead and not following. So when interior design in particular began, nothing really was mass produced. So designers really created. They had a vision and then they had it made, whether that was furniture, wall coverings, textiles, often were done to their specifications. They designed the space. Today, we've kind of flipped that around. There's a lot of mass production available. It's become a massive industry. So it stands to reason that this has become a lot more readily available. So as designers, suddenly now the designer is more of a consumer of what is being created for them. So you go to market and you see all the cool new things. But I think we sometimes have to, and that's great, but I think sometimes it's important to kind of throw up the hand and say, actually, I want to stand in this empty space and I really want to see it first. And then I'm going to create it in my mind. And then I'm going to demand certain things. So the demand has got to come from the design professional. So if you want self-sanitizing door handles on every fridge, you have to ask for it. You have to push that conversation. Otherwise, design gets stagnant. And I think we were, prior to this interruption in our lives, had a real tendency. I mean, money was good, business was good, everybody was doing a lot of projects. But we have to be really careful about that and kind of think about, wait a minute, actually we can push product development. We can work with brands and say, here's what I need. Here's what I need the fridge to look like from here on out. Here's what I need my cooking surfaces to do for me. I've just learned that because I was cooped up with them for 8 weeks. So I think you guys really need to lead that conversation.
I think that's an excellent point. And Joanne and I were just talking the other day about how when, we've been fortunate during this time to be really, really busy working on some commercial projects. And I find that when we are super busy, I don't have a lot of brain space left for innovation or to sit back and say, okay, stop for a minute. Let's rethink this, or let's push the boundaries for something new. And we need to create that brain space, and we need to keep doing that, because you're right. Design does get stagnant, even for us, and I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, you get stuck in a little template. And I have it a lot where designers then come to us and say, when we ask them, what can brands do better? Because that's a big part of our conversation in this industry. And they'll say, I really wish they would. I really wish. No, you shouldn't wish. You should say, let's force a forum and let's talk about R&D. You can drive that. You're ultimately specifying the stuff. So brands need to know what's actually needed in the marketplace now more than ever.
I totally agree.
Yep.
Totally agree.
So, yeah, we had other great ideas, and everybody on this Forbes article, by the way, had some amazing things to contribute. Sarah Suzanka was, for instance, talking about products or spaces in the home that should be revisited. And some of her ideas included package delivery space in the front of the house to maybe even eventually facilitate drone delivery. Where's that going to go? It can't go on the front stoop. I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in a townhouse. And if you're not out there like a hawk, when FedEx comes, your package is going to be gone. And a little dude on a bicycle kind of zooming right behind the FedEx truck. I mean, that's the reality, especially in cities that we live with. So she was talking about having a space specifically to receive and unpackage, whatever you get from Amazon and FedEx, and have recycling containers right there, so some of that stuff doesn't come into the house. So there were some really great ideas from our perspective. Obviously we need to store non-perishables. Clearly we need that TP storage unless we get that smart toilet. Mm-hmm. Because then, hooray, freedom. We'll never need TP again. But, frozen food certainly has become a huge topic, and people saying, I need bulk storage for that kind of stuff, for pantry goods as well. And I think wine and beer is going to go from a vanity project of having a little wine room or a wine fridge. That's going to be a real deal. So thinking about integrating these things, not just in a kitchen, but using the basement more efficiently, or ancillary areas to increase storage, and to probably also decentralize some of these spaces.
I think that is so fascinating. Like I really just think about it all. I mean, I feel like after 9/11, I felt like the mentality was everybody was kind of downsizing and nesting and getting really cozy, and we were, design kind of took a little different path after that, and And now after COVID, I mean, like you said, these are conversations that have been going on and really should be even talked about more, but COVID is accelerating it all. But I mean, just think about that. Think about packages being delivered and having a place to put them and then going right into your recycling and then where to store it all. I mean, it's going to change things in a big way.
I feel like in any home, it doesn't matter what the size is. I feel like storage to me is a luxury. I don't know, order, when you can put something away where it needs to go and it's not laying around somewhere, I think storage is huge. And I think this is something builders need to make space for. And like you said, these spaces where, deliveries can be made and all that. I think builders need to really be focusing on this kind of stuff.
But you guys also need to demand it from the builders. Here we go again. It's you're there. You are working with that homeowner. So you can drive that conversation because the homeowner doesn't know what he doesn't know. And so it's up to you to say, let's think about, first of all, I hate traditional floor plans because it's all this fluff space that we use once a year. And we're coming into probably another recession. It's a forced one, but it is one, and it can be significant. So some of the stuff in the next half a year to year is going to change the way we live, and why not make some good decisions that are there to stay? You're right. You brought up 9/11. We started nesting. In fact, I think 9/11, in my personal theory, had a lot to do with the bubble in 2008 because we invested so much money. If you remember, 2003, 4, 5, 6, people were taking loans. Their loans had loans just so that they could invest more money in their homes because they were still in this sort of nesting mode. And that's really when broadly reaching design became kind of a big deal. And lo and behold, there came the bubble, boom. And so we're doing this every 10 years if you do the math. And so there we were, 2009, trying to figure ourselves out and pick ourselves back up. And then we went back into kind of a downsized mode in 2010. Oh yeah, small cars, small homes, until the business got better. And then we had big cars again and big homes and off we went. Instead of,
so true. Maybe
now is the time to actually keep what you can afford, but make it smart and rethink some of these elements. For me, having a wonderful kitchen is a great thing to have. But let's think about, maybe you're not so comfortable anymore about putting your parents or grandparents into a nursing home because that's gotten a little bit of an issue associated with it as of recently. So maybe thinking about actually having them in your home, but separately in a way that doesn't look weird, that looks very integrated and very beautiful in the home, but that would require a second kitchen, that would require separate bathroom or wellness areas. Then you might want to all of a sudden think about maybe there is due cause for some kind of an isolation space where I have a guest suite that's really not just for COVID, but generally, if you've got the flu, why give it to the rest of the family? And everybody takes time off work. Why not just kind of isolate and learn from some of this stuff? So there's, again, room for a kitchenette, a nicer bathroom. Why does the master suite only get the really nice bathroom? Use some of the square footage in a new way. So I think we have total license to start talking about some of this.
Absolutely.
Love that.
One area that I have wanted to do for so long, and I'm always looking for the space and trying to figure it out, and I'm determined now, is bringing that nature in and talking about vegetable gardens. And I was so jealous of my sister who lives in Cape Cod during this time, and she has the most beautiful raised garden beds, and she feeds herself all summer long. And I wished that I had that. So I think that's another whole topic, and that's going to, I think, really expand now, don't you think?
Absolutely. And again, you know, there's so many aspects. We now call it, because we're smart and stuff, we call it biophilia, but really that means we like nature, and who doesn't? And, you know, so it's important on any scale to kind of bring some of these elements. And there's so much research that's being done right now that really shows the impact of plants inside the home. Even artificial plants, they don't even have to be real if you're really bad at it and you're going to kill them anyway. Even artificial plants do something inherently and reduces blood pressure and really reduces stress levels and cortisol levels. It's that simple. And so having plants in the home obviously is a no-brainer. I sat in on a really great NKBA-led conference back when we could have still all attend conferences. And I heard an amazing talk on biophilia, which involved technology. The fact that if you really are in some New York apartment and you really can't implement a whole lot of plant life, certainly not outside, even displaying nature on a separate computer screen or using plasma screens around the house, not for the purpose of having additional TVs, but to have moving nature, running water, a forest with trees swaying in the wind that actually has a reduced amount of that same impact, but it's like 40% reduced, but it still really has an impact on your health and emotional well-being. Crazy. So think about technology to bring that to play, right?
Well, we know that there's so many scientific studies on that, and I know, in office spaces and things, they do try to bring the plants in because it does give you that sense of wellness or whatever it is. But yeah, there is definitely a science behind that.
There is. And then, like you said, she's feeding herself. What a wonderful phrase, right? First of all, I love the idea of shopping local. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the news right now that this giant, meat processor isn't going to make it and this supermarket chain isn't going to make it. I'm not so sure just how sad that's going to have to make me. I get there's jobs, but I also understand that there could be local jobs that could be just as valuable, maybe even better. So going to have to see how that's going to shake out, or how some of these bigger businesses can redefine who they are and how they do business. But if you can shop locally, sure. A lot of us are happy to do that. We have a great thing around an initiative here in Lancaster that actually pools several local farmers and local restaurants, and they all bring stuff together and you pick it up once a week. It's really cool. But if you can also feed yourself and have the benefit of an indoor garden that also gives you something in return for taking care of it, I think that's wonderful. Nothing tastes better than your first self-grown head of lettuce. So, and it adds, and again, there we go back into the kitchen. Is the kitchen in this next decade the same kitchen that we're used to? Or is it more decentralized? Can it have more centers depending on what you need during your daily routine? And can part of that be a garden?
Oh my gosh, I would love to have an herb garden growing in my kitchen, in a certain area with the best light and just go and pick from it. I have a courtyard house, so I don't have a backyard, and so I have these little baby troughs, and I've got basil and mint and lavender and different things growing, and they're so happy. I have a little tomato plant, and so I have it on a very small scale, but hey, when you need a mojito, it's right there for you.
There it is. When we were last time in Germany, we did a tour of a number of German kitchen manufacturers' showrooms in November. And there was just not a kitchen island that didn't at the center, because everybody loves a big island. But then you have a big island, what do you do with the thing, right? No, you can't even reach the middle. But it's great to have plants in there. And so many of them had kitchen gardens integrated either into the island or into a wall system. And we loved that. And I said, but yeah, it's indoors. And they said, you just use some lighting that really supports plant growth, and you're good to go. You can absolutely integrate that. So they were very, very green. There was a lot of focus on plants in the kitchen.
Well, speaking of Germany, Veronika, can you share with us some of this interesting news that you've been following? I think it's fascinating.
And we have, and girls, we are almost at the end. So we're going to have to do part 2 with Veronika. You're going to have to make time for us, girl.
Fine, I can.
Because we have so much more to talk about. So
I can keep
if
talking,
that's okay.
no problem. Yeah. Well, I'm a fact hound, and I just get all itchy when I read really bad news posts, whether that's on Facebook or anywhere else, but I think Facebook sees a lot of that. And so I said, there's got to be a better way to go to the source. So I try to read a lot from the New England Journal of Medicine and Science Magazine. And then I heard on NPR an interview with a German virologist, Christian Drosten, and he heads up the virology team at the Berlin Charité Hospital. And he made a point. He said, I don't really want to translate any of my work or my findings because I'm German, and I just want to make sure that I say it in my native language. And he had a lot of interesting things to say, and it's pretty fact-based and just kind of dry, and I just kind of tells it how it is. So I've been listening to him 2-3 times a week and then transcribing a lot of where he's going. And, his work is very slow. It's very diligent. So it's not this helps right around the corner. Well, I'm sure he has that desire, but it's just not how it's going to work. And so sometimes he's very sobering to listen to, because I get American about it too and say, come on, we got this. Where's the vaccine already? And so he kind of cautions people and says, look, we're in this for a while. And even if we expedite vaccines and if we test out treatments, we really have to do due diligence to get to the bottom of it. We can't just, go and flaunt it as the next big idea, because it's really heartbreaking to a lot of people when it then isn't. So, he's doing so much research, and it's kind of a to be continued conversation. But he analyzes everything that comes his way in terms of treatments and in terms of vaccines. He was actually really excited by some studies around children that do show that children are maybe like a third less contagious. And so he's cautiously optimistic, but, look at how Germany's doing right now with this thing. They're being really conservative, and they're not trying to be political or anything. They're just saying, right now, the way we control this is to stay home as much as we can, especially when we're vulnerable. You wear masks, and you adhere to these measures, not because of yourself, but because you're protecting everybody else. And so slowly but surely this thing will unravel, right?
Oh my goodness. Well, Veronika, I hate to say this, our time is up. Will you join us again, and let's do part 2 of this, because we only got through not even probably half of what we wanted to talk to you about.
I know.
So will you come back a second time? Okay, so we're going to have to save
I'd be more than happy to.
Okay, great. We'll save the quotes for next time too, because we just ran out of time. But this is so interesting, and
I literally could sit here for like hours in here and listen to you. I just love it.
I'll be happy to join you guys again. That's not a problem at all.
All right. Well, stay tuned, everybody. Thank you for listening, and keep up with us on the One Room Challenge, which we finally revealed our space. We are going to be redesigning our podcast studio. So you can follow our blog. You can see it on our website. We're posting on Instagram and Facebook, and it's an 8-week
transformation.
And giving updates on what we're doing. So check out that.
And do stay tuned. We'll be recording part 2 of this, because we've got so much more to talk about, and pick Veronika's brain about how COVID-19 is going to be transforming the way we view design. So thank you, Veronika.
Everybody.
We'll talk to you again soon. And thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks.
Join Joanne and Kelly weekly for a lively conversation about trends, travels to industry events, current design projects, the good, the bad, and the ugly, do's and don'ts, product recommendations, and more. Be sure to follow the fun on Facebook. They're on Instagram at Kandrak-Cole. And of course, you've got to visit them online at kandrak-cole.com for more information.